Hi, Sarine.
Hi, Maria.
Thanks for being part of this next Gut Talks. And today we're going to talk about mainly what you do, which is corporate branding and strategic design. But we're going to focus on branding and more specifically logos.
Mm-hmm.
So what's a logo?
First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. A logo is a mark that companies or organizations use to identify themselves from each other.
Okay.
A good logo should have the three characteristics. It should be memorable, simple, and appropriate. To test your logo, you should be able to resize it as small as 16 pixels and as big as you want.
Yes,
in order you have to make sure that it doesn't
change and you're able to recognize
exactly.
it. Okay. This leads to the next question. What are the main or different types of logos?
There are many types of logos. I will start with the lettermark logo. Lettermark logo is the abbreviation of the name of the company. For example, CNN, which is Cable News Network, or Louis Vuitton, it's LV.
Okay.
Another type is a logotype. A logotype is font-based and usually it's short. For example, Coca-Cola. Could you think of another name? A logotype?
Visa.
Exactly. Visa, FedEx, and we have
so it's just fonts, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
But that said, the font is taken and then, of course, personalized,
tweaked by the
designer.
Okay.
Another type is a logo symbol or a pictorial, as they call it. It functions as a rebus. Basically, it's the shape or the margin that describes exactly the company's names. One famous example is Apple, for example, or the Shell Oil. Another example is logo marks. Unlike the previous one, basically it's a shape or a form that describes your company.
Okay.
It could be like Adidas or Nike.
Okay.
Then we have a mascot.
Okay.
A mascot is when there is an image or a design, more likely an illustration, that represents a figure that represents your company. One famous example is KFC. Then we have the pictorial mark. It's when people associate your name of the company with the image of your company. For example, the Doritos or Burger King. An emblem consists of the font inside the icon.
Okay.
For example, Harley Davidson or Starbucks.
Okay, so it's inside the circle or a shape.
Inside the shape. The name of the company is part of the whole image.
Okay.
At last, we have the logo system, which is an evolution of the original logos that we know. It's when the graphical framework it's adaptable to different situations.
Okay.
Let me explain. Example, the MTV Music.
Okay,
logo.
so it changes according to a situation or a context or an event
or the Google Doodles.
Yes, okay, so I think everyone can understand that. Okay. We had an overview of different types of logos, and a logo is obviously part of this bigger, if you want, entity that's a brand. What's a brand?
A brand is a process of manufacturing meaning. It is the feeling that we get after experiencing a service
or a product.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is it that people look for in a brand?
The first thing that people look in a brand is the color. I'll give you an example. For example, when you go to the supermarket and you want to buy tea, and you are clueless about teas, the first thing that catches your attention is the color of the packaging. And then you check if it serves your needs, for example, the taste. And then you check the numbers. but the first thing that attracts someone in a brand is the color.
Okay, and by numbers you mean when you give it a closer look, because so when you scan through, if you're just passing by your 1T, you're looking, the first thing that catches your attention is the packaging, the color, and then you get a bit closer, you look at what it says, if it serves your need, and then you dig deeper to see if it serves your need in more depth, put it that way, if it has more or less calories or
the price
or whatever. This is when you encounter this brand for the first time and you say you want to give it a try. But if it's a brand you already know, it's this other kind of feelings you have towards it because you already know about it and you have certain expectations.
This is because you know the brand, and you already are. You have already created
a relationship.
Yeah. So that is, you are a loyal customer to that brand.
Yeah, because sometimes some people like a specific brand for a reason or another, and it just appeals to them more than another one. If you take sports brand, the major ones, or I personally used to like a specific drum brand more than others, without having even tried the others, but I just had this feeling about the brand.
Well, manufacturers know that, and sometimes you have to be careful. But for example, which happened to me, I wanted to buy something on Amazon. Sometimes they do exactly the same product, but they give a different name.
Okay.
So because they know that the first thing that people look is you're attracted by the looks, and then I was buying a product, and I saw it with the same the product looked the same, but the name was different. Okay. So also they know that when a loyal customer knows a specific product, they're attracted to, but they don't read.
That's the question: how loyal the customer would be to know the difference or not. That's the other issue, because some might be fooled. So what makes a good brand?
I will quote Debbie Millman when she says, "The key to a brand is a deliberate differentiation." By that she means that in order for a good product to survive in the market, it should be different than other services or products
that are more or less the same.
Yes.
Okay, and that's it.
MP3s have been in the market way before Apple, but it was the first one to introduce iTunes.
So let's take a step back and go back a little bit to the logo, but understanding how do you convince a client to go to follow a certain direction and not another one, because sometimes you come and they want a logo, but you should make them understand that it's part of a bigger picture, which is the entire brand, to be able to convince maybe to go in certain directions. How do you do it?
That's a very good question. A logo does not look good on a piece of white paper. You have to convince your client by showing what their competitors do. And by that, I mean you have to understand your client, what it does and what it wants to do.
The mission, the vision, everything. Okay.
Yeah, everything. And then later you have. I like this quote from Tony Robbins when he says that you have to create. If you want to create a strong relationship, you have to convince your clients or somebody with something that they know, with something they do not know. By this, you can show their logo on different products, on corporate identity, by using different corporate identity.
Okay.
Visual identity is very important. You can show your client how the logo would look like on different products that they could relate to.
Okay, so that's how you match the unknown with the known.
Exactly.
So there's no fear of, because usually people are sort of afraid of what they don't know.
They get scared,
but here,
especially if it's not a new company, it's an old company.
And when you have to revamp something.
When you have to revamp a logo, people get scared that they will lose their customers.
Yeah, or it might not deliver the message they wanted to.
Exactly,
deliver.
But
Okay.
especially right now, because the logos are going into, they're always going into a transition. 20 years ago, there were not everyone had a website. So some logos were not adaptable on screens or on social media. But right now people are changing, so their logos would be adaptable to all different kinds of...
Yeah, it's true. We can observe this transition that everyone's going, many brands are actually trying to...
You're right, a lot of logos are going simple, but by being simple, that does not mean it's a good logo. It should represent the company.
And keep the essence.
Keep the essence.
That was there, and maybe even expand it further with this new...
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. It was fun.